Hello and welcome to the Gavel. I am Terry Ikumi. There was no plenary at the National Assembly in this past week under review due to the Constitution Amendment public hearings of the Senate and the Special Summit on National Security of the House of Representatives. It was, however, a busy week for the House Ad Hoc Committee on Recovered Loot and Assets, interacting with relevant ministries and agencies to ascertain the status of recovered loots, movable and immovable assets by federal government agencies from 2002 to 2020. There were questions on possible illegal withdrawals from recovery accounts, loans to agencies from those accounts, and revelation from the EFCC chairman on the value of the seized items from former Minister of Petroleum Resources, Diezani Alison Madueke. Here's a detailed report. On the first day of the investigative hearing on recovered loots and assets, the ad hoc committee was disturbed that the heads of relevant agencies were absent.
We invited the heads of these agencies, and we expect that they will respect the parliament and appear in person. When we have a preparation where we invite heads of agencies, they come forward when it's time to take. But when it's time to account for what you have taken, you find it difficult to come. You become bigger than even the country. I think that's unacceptable to this parliament. Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have a letter of delegations. What really happened is that on the letter from your committee, it's minuted and assigned to me, which I have here.
A minute is an internal activity of your agency, it's got nothing to do with us as your representatives. Anyway, like I said, the same comment I made with the EFCC applies to you. So we'll take a decision before we'll start for my hearing.
And it was almost unbelievable to the committee that the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps had no records of its recovered loots.
What I would do, your case is slightly different because you made the representation. We will give you today to go and appear before this committee on Wednesday morning with a written submission of the assets that you have recovered. The letter you wrote to us is that you do not have an inventory, that NCDC does not keep inventory of recovered assets. That's irresponsible. It just doesn't give any indication that you know what you're doing. So please, we will excuse you now. Go back and get us that income inventory.
Meanwhile, the committee questioned the operator of the assets recovery account from the Office of the Accountant General on why some transactions were not reflected in the statement of account obtained from the CBN.
Perhaps you made mistakes in your bid to conceal facts. That's a possibility. I'm not saying it is, but the reality is we have ruled on it. You call the Accountant General, go look at your book. There's so many other infractions. We only drew your attention to the ones concerning you. There's so many other situations in which you claim that fund has been deposited and CBN statement contradicts yours.
We normally attach the statement of account of CBN. Wherever we give this confirmation, we always and every time attach a statement of that bank statement.
You wrote yourself that a certain amount of money was generated from sale of assets, and it was supposed to be in a particular account. The money is not there.
It is there.
So
it is there.
I'll show you the statement of account. Can you show us the date?
That we gave you, and it is the statement of account is there.
Why is there a difference between your statement and the one from CBN?
The committee then resolved to summon the Accountant General, the Attorney General of the Federation, Governor of the Central Bank, the EFCC chairman, and other heads of agencies who failed to attend the hearing. The following day, the Attorney General and Accountant General of the Federation honored the summons of the committee, with the former chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Ibrahim Magu, observing proceedings.
The budget demands of the federal government.
The Attorney General began by explaining that there are agreements surrounding internationally recovered loots and informed the committee that a database had been created for locally recovered assets.
On account of the fact that Nigeria as a sovereign nation is not exclusively involved where international recoveries are concerned, it calls for mutual negotiations and determination. We have what is, established in the Office of the Attorney General, Asset Recovery and Management Unit, sanctioned by the head of service and established on that account. And a database has indeed being established that captures the desired information relating thereto.
The lawmakers queried payments to the Ministry of Justice from the recovery accounts.
It says request for approval to effect critical payment in respect of Federal Ministry of Justice from the recovered, which means the Attorney General knows that this is coming from the recovered funds, which means that the Attorney General knows that he's making a request that is against the law.
There is nothing either in the title, indicating a previous correspondence from the Office of the Attorney General. Neither is there anything in the opening paragraph making reference to a letter from the Office of the Attorney General. Where the money comes from is a function of the Federal Ministry of Finance, and I'm not making specific requests out of the recovered assets.
The federal government.
The Accountant General on his part was questioned on a missing document showing 5 million euros, which was not submitted to the committee, as well as 6.1 billion naira paid into an account in the Office of the National Security Advisor, operated by the EFCC, which has been denied by the NSA.
Why is it not the ledger submitted to this committee? Your balance of account different. Your ledger report to this committee, why is it not reflecting that euro, that 5 million euro, why is it not reflecting in the ledger submitted to this committee?
Well, this is what I was telling you. Reconciliation is always there, and all accountants will attest to that. We will update you. By tomorrow, you will get full position.
EFCC officers attached to NSA office, keeping a separate recovery account. No, I mean, if you're working for EFCC, no matter where you are you allowed to operate an account where you're different from the EFCC account and the NSA is unaware of the recovery account?
The lawmakers were also concerned that loans were given to agencies from the recovery accounts, especially for items which were already provided for in the budget. On the issue of recovered loots, the Accountant General boldly insisted that the Ibori loot was paid to Delta State.
Let's give an example. I mean, there's something trending, the recovery of Ibori loot. Where will it be paid into?
It was paid to the state. Is it Delta or... Yeah, Delta State. It was paid to Delta State.
But that's contrary to the information that it was...
No.
Used for specific
Any recovery, Honorable Chair, Honorable Committee, any recovery that is, arising from looted funds from a particular state goes to the state. The state governors will not even allow this to fly. You know, Honorable. You know they will not. They will take federal government to court for holding their money. So we don't joke and we don't play with that. We pay them their money.
The Accountant General has, however, retracted his claims, saying he was only making general comments about recoveries relating to state government, and that the £4.2 million Ibori loot is still being awaited, after which the issues around it will be resolved before further action is taken. On the third day of the investigative hearing, our former special prosecutor to the Presidential Investigative Panel on Recovered Assets informed the lawmakers of a civil servant with the Petroleum Equalization Fund with unexplainable wealth, whose case file has long been taken over by the Attorney General.
49 companies paid money. They are in charge of allocation of, they give allocation for petroleum products. So there's several monies came into his account, which became suspicious. So based on that, he was invited and several funds were traced to him. One of them was, we found that he has an hotel in Imo State, Greatwood Hotels. We also found various money amounting to 2.2 billion in his accounts. 202,000 United States dollars, yes. And also the sum of 11,000 euro and also 2,000 pounds.
And this person is a civil servant?
Very well, sir. With the Petroleum Acquisition Fund, sir. Case file was taken over by the Attorney General of the Federation. So it's only the AG that can say whether the process has been completed.
Thank you.
But we felt going by his salary, he can't get that thing in 100 years, sir.
The special prosecutor also informed the committee of another case file involving $60 billion, which was taken over by the Attorney General since 2019.
There was an intelligence that was given to the panel that the sum of 60 billion US dollars belonging to the Nigerian government is currently being domiciled at Texas in the United States of America, which the panel have started working on, sir, to make the recovery. All this has been taken over by the Attorney General of the Federation, sir.
You've made weighty allegations as alleging that huge funds belonging to Nigeria could have been recovered, but that for some reason it sat on them for whatever reason. I don't want to believe that that's really what's happened, but that's the allegation you have made. And since he's not here, we will want to study your document first. Then we'll formally write him, causing him to make a reappearance before this committee.
Meanwhile, the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, has denied the allegation, saying he has a record of facilitating the repatriation of funds from the United States of America, the United Kingdom, Island of Jersey, and other territories across the globe. It's the turn of the chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, and he denies any possibility of payments being made from the recovery account. But his attention is drawn to documents stating otherwise.
I can see this particular document on 16th of April, 19 African Association of Anti-Corruption Authorities, and to the tune of 3-point-something million.
Being payment by EFCC for election duty-related expenses.
As you are aware, I'm less than 100 days in office. And
please, sir, can I have back the document,
yes.
please? Can I?
And the
clerk, please let me have that document.
Is also, how long have you been there? He has been there 9 months. I can't comment on something that I don't know about.
The committee is dissatisfied and wants further explanation on withdrawals made from the EFCC recovery account.
When the Attorney General was saying yesterday, he clearly said it, that when you have even the EFCC recovery account, that no third party is allowed to transfer funds, and it cannot be transferred to a third party. EFCC, even though it's your recovery account, becomes a third party here because it's supposed to have only one destination, which is the federal government forfeiture account. Yes.
The EFCC chairman was again before the committee 2 days later, where he responded to questions on the status of the recovered loots from former Minister of Petroleum, Diezani Alison Madueke.
The estimated value in Naira was given at 14,460,000,000 Naira. Yes.
I think, I want you to repeat that because members didn't like.
Is the estimated value that
yes.
we have, yes.
No, can you tell us the figure again?
14,460,000,000.
Is it for houses, for cars, or for jewelry?
No, for jewelry. Yes. Yes.
What about the value of the houses and cash, if you are in the position to set it up, please?
It's about $80 million. No, they have been finally forfeited, just like houses and vehicles, etc., etc. And the Commission is looking forward to the Presidential Committee to auction all those items and then deposit the money appropriately into...
When did you get this forfeiture order?
We got it, I think, sometime in 2019, if I remember, yeah.
If you have an asset and it's worth 14 billion, and some of them could be deteriorating assets, we need to be sure that they're still in such a fit and proper state, or, if we keep keeping them, they're going to go. I'm sure you have cars that were seized. So every day you have a forfeited car, you're losing value. Why does it take so long to turn this asset into cash to fund the budget?
Several factors, Mr. Chairman. The court processes and procedures, is chief among them, that requires a very lengthy time of us to dispose onto this. Other issues, administrative exchanges, etc., etc. But what I want to assure the committee is that since when I come on board, we have resolved that going forward, we are going to be dealing with these issues on case-by-case basis.
Welcome back to the Gavel. The House of Representatives Special Security Summit kicked off on the 26th of May, but only the opening session was open to the public. Traditional rulers were present and expressed dissatisfaction with what they described as too much talk and less action on security and national development, while the leadership of the National Assembly emphasized that recommendations from the summit would be implemented this time.
distinguished.
The special summit on national security by the House of Representatives began with a minute of silence for the late Chief of Army Staff and others who died in a plane crash on the 21st of May, and in whose honor the summit was postponed by 2 days.
May their souls rest in peace. Thank you.
The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, National Assembly leadership, traditional rulers, service chiefs were among those in attendance.
Nigerian people.
The Speaker of the House highlighted the importance of the summit as the Senate President expressed concern about the procurement process of the military.
Today, at this time of our national history, when insecurity threatens the authority of the state and the foundations of our nationhood, when the activities of bandits, insurgents, and criminals of every stripe impede our efforts at progress and prosperity, we must confront the realization that our previous and current approaches to addressing the challenges of insecurity have not yielded the desired results.
The National Assembly should work hard, as it always does, to provide more resources. I also want to say that we must review the procurement processes by the security agencies. While we are not going to open up how they do these things to the public, but as parliamentarians, those who approve the funding, we must understand how these procurement processes are undertaken. If the processes require that we change the way we do them because of inefficiencies, we should go ahead and do so.
Traditional rulers seized the moment to speak truth to power while calling for more actions than talks.
I'll be very happy if anybody can raise up their hand and say, I can go to my area of constituents, my local governments, and I can stay there in peace for 1 week. Who can do it here? Including our gatekeepers. Who can do it here? Including the Senate President, including the Speaker. But you left the traditional rulers. You left district heads, the Baales, to continue to stay there. And you are saying all will be well in this country. We are the ones facing these youths. We know their problems, and we have been talking every time. You sit in beautiful offices, and you all think all will be well. Let us be very truthful in this country. Look at this beautiful building. As beautiful as this building is, if the foundation is wrong, the entire building will collapse because the foundation has a problem. In this gathering, the Senate President mentioned the key factor, the collapse of local government. It has collapsed. Let's be very truthful to ourselves.
I think enough of these talks. Let's walk. Let's walk the talk. Because the more we sit here and talk, the more time we waste in taking real actions. Because we know the problems. I'm not going to say anything here that I have not said in the last 7 years. So we can't just continue talking, and we don't implement. I bet you can come back 3 or 4 months later for another security summit. We will discuss the same things we are going to discuss today.
Crime neither knows any political party, nor the rich or the poor. Crime and insecurity love nobody. Insecurity, as I said, is a monster that must be confronted head on. It is nobody's friend, but rather an enemy to all. The earlier we fight it together, the better it will be for all of us.
The President's message was delivered by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, and the Chief of Defense Staff maintained his stance on insecurity.
This special national summit forms part of the collective effort to identify the root causes of our national security challenges so that we can develop and implement solutions through policies, legislation, plans, budgetary provisions, robust oversight system, bilateral and multilateral engagement that would address our present and future needs. I am certain that we shall overcome, just as we have done many times throughout our history. However, success at this time requires that we set aside all other considerations and commit ourselves to a common endeavor in the national interest.
The leadership of the armed forces and the security agencies are mindful of the concerns that are being shown or that are being expressed across the country, and we promise that in line with the directive of the Commander-in-Chief, that we will take every measure necessary to bring peace to our fatherland.
For the chairman of the NDLEA, drugs and insecurity cannot be separated.
We know from our colleagues in the armed forces, once they secure a camp from Boko Haram, there are remnants everywhere of drugs. The insurgents have been asked the question, what is your most worrisome fear in your operations? And they have not said their fear is running out of ammunition or running out of food or weapons. Their greatest fear, they always say, is running out of drugs. If we legalize cannabis in any way, shape, or form, we will soon turn into a nation of junkies and criminals.
Finally, let's take a look at Senate activities in the past week.
Deputy Senate President Senator Ove Omoagege is assuring that the Senate will pass the constitution alteration bills before it proceeds on annual recess by July this year. Senator Omoagege made this remark during a press conference at the National Assembly ahead of the zonal public hearing on the alteration of the Constitution scheduled for May 26 and 27, 2001.
It is our hope and expectation that we take the PIB first, and after the PIB, we'll bring it to the floor for consideration. We're pretty much ready. I can assure you, I don't want to make news with this, but before we go, on recess, all of those bills, the electoral reform bill and the constitutional review excise bills, we put a vote, on the floor, and we send to Mr. President for his accent.
As Nigeria recovers from the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, Senate President Ahmed Lawan is promising that the National Assembly will review all emergency measures, including relevant legislation, to determine their effectiveness and prepare government for future emergencies. He gave the assurance at an event in Abuja organized by the National Institute of Legislative Studies.
The freedom to move between member nations is helpful to sub-regional economic growth, besides increasing the attendant benefits like job creation, a reduction in underemployment, stimulation of economic multipliers, and better well-being for our people. This can hardly happen in an atmosphere of strife, cross-border crimes like banditry, insurgency, drug trafficking, and ceaseless ethno-religious struggles, amongst others. As parliamentarians, we must examine the dimensions associated with these occurrences towards appropriate interventions. An accord of purpose between member nations creates the needed synergy for the realization of uniform visions. The fostering of this uniformity partly rests with us, and I'm confident we can accomplish this despite the limitations of institutional empowerment.
Senate President Ahmed Lawan is charging the ECOWAS Parliament to seek ways of addressing the prevalence of terrorism and irregular migration affecting member states. He stated this during the first ordinary session for the year of the ECOWAS Parliament in Abuja.
And that's it on the Gavel this week. Thanks for your time. Send feedback to the email address on your screen. I am Terry Ikumi. Goodbye.